Sorry to take your stage time, you two.
That's fine. I'm sure we'll run over or something. Hello, Wendy.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How's your day been?
Very, very good, thank you.
There
As
are
always.
lunch here in Derby.
Oh, thank you. Yes, always, always. A lot of people here today. Oh, hang on, I've just realised my flies are undone. Sorry about that. Ooh.
You got me chatting. Yeah, so, do you know the area?
No. The only time I've been to Derby is to come to this event.
Oh, okay.
So
it's as good a reason as any.
Yeah, very good reason.
Yeah, marvellous. Obviously, we're here for a specific reason. Little TV show that people might have heard of. Called,
Star Trek.
Yeah. That's right. No. Yeah. So yeah.
The Avengers.
Yeah. Which ones? The 60s or the new Marvel?
Oh, the 60s.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Steve always. No, we jest. We're obviously here to talk about Doctor Who or your career, which Doctor Who was actually a very small part of in the end. I mean, where did it start for Wendy Padbury, or as I've noted here, Wendowski Padbarova?
Oh, yes. That was my name because I was going to be a ballerina. That was my dream. And I won a scholarship to the Royal Ballet School when I was about 11. But when I was a child, every book I had was all to do with ballet, and every ballerina had a Russian-sounding name. For instance, Alicia Markova was actually called Alice Marks, and so it was just like I thought, Wendy Padbury's not going to hack it, is it? It's really not. So I made up Wendowski Padbarova, and that's what I was going to be called when I became a prima ballerina. But unfortunately, I didn't grow enough. I don't know whether you've noticed, but I'm quite short. And actually, at that period of time, I would never even have got into the corps de ballet at the Royal Ballet School, because you had to be 5'3", and I wasn't 5'3". And I wasn't going to be in the corps de ballet anyway. I wanted to be a prima ballerina, so that was that out. Well, so then I turned to acting, really.
Well, did you have a creative family, or?
No. My Aunt Sarah was quite creative, my mum's sister, but no, not in a working. I mean, we're all quite creative as people in other various aspects of life, but not theatre or television or anything like that, no.
So, as you say, because the ballet thing wasn't going to happen, that's why you turned to other forms of performance?
Yes.
Okay, and so did you go down the traditional route of
what, drama school?
Drama school, that's
No, I went to a stage school. I wrote off in the summer holidays. I was at grammar school in Ulster, near Stratford-on-Avon, where I was born. And in the summer, I'd been looking up drama schools and discovered that you couldn't go until you were 18. And I was quite impatient as a young person. And I wrote off to lots of various places in the summer holidays and got myself an interview, and then I had to tell my mum and dad what I'd done, and I said, I've got an interview in London with this stage school, and they went, oh. So Mum took me. They were brilliant, actually. She took me, and I started that September. So I never actually went back to school. I was 15, just before, my birthday's in December, so I started there in September. So I was just short of being able to leave school, and so I had to they had to call a meeting in the summer holidays of the governors of the school, because at that point you couldn't leave school until you were 16, and I had to explain myself as to why I thought it was a good idea that I didn't go back to school. Anyway, they let me off, so I did leave school.
So you didn't complete a traditional education.
No.
You just...
I just left. I just ditched it and
yeah.
left. I wish I had, of course, in retrospect, of course you do. Always wish that you'd gone on and...
There's a distinct irony that you're not traditionally educated and you joined Doctor Who as an astrophysicist.
I know, I couldn't even spell it. I know, it's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah. Jumping ahead, how did you handle some of the, shall we say, trickier language that they might have given you?
Yeah, I didn't find it too difficult at the time. Funnily enough, I find it more difficult now. If ever I do a big finish and they've written some horrible writers put me all this jargon in, I find that more difficult now at my age, but at the time it wasn't too much of a problem. I was quite good at learning lines, actually. I was one of those actors, and I'm not unusual in this, where I could go to bed at night, read my script for what I needed to know for the morning, put it away, and then I'd know it in the morning.
Ooh.
And that's not an unusual thing. I'm not the only actor to have, be able to have, remember, I don't know what it is, but...
Talk amongst yourselves for a second. I'm dreadful at learning lines. I'm going to try that. I'm literally in the middle of learning a play at the moment, and it's like, ugh! So,
yeah, well, try it. Try it. It's worth a try. Yeah.
I'm going to try that. What you go to drama school, and I mean, what did drama school involve back in the day, as it were?
Well, it wasn't really a drama school; it was a stage school. So attached to the stage school is an agency.
Oh, right.
It was a similar thing that Fraser went to. Fraser went to Corona,
yes,
which was a stage school, and I went to Ada Foster, which was... They were the two big stage schools where a lot of people came out of. So when I started work because they were an agency as well. So I barely did anything at stage school because I managed to get lots of work when I was really young.
Do you think you would have got more out of traditional drama school, or was learning on the job the right thing?
Learning on the job's pretty good, but maybe I could have learned more if I'd been a bit more patient and waited to apply to a proper drama school. But I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't. It hasn't really impacted my life. It didn't stop me working, and no. So for me it was a good thing, and I'm sure Fraser would say the same. That he didn't have a formal training as such. You just don't get that at stage school. Yeah.
So let's wind it forward a little bit. So when does Doctor Who first come onto the radar for you?
Well, it would have been obviously 1968, and it would have been just me being sent for an interview. Along with half the rest of the young actors of that sort of age, my sort of age. So I was 20, 21 then.
And it's a pretty well-known show at that point. So what's the reaction to? Oh, this is an interview for Doctor Who. This is a big deal. Yeah,
definitely a big deal. Definitely a big deal, which adds a certain amount of pressure to your interview, but and it was pretty stringent, the process. It was interview, then it was another interview, and it was being shortlisted all the time until they got down to about 6 people, 6 of us, one of whom was Fraser's girlfriend at the time, so I think he was rather hoping that she got the part, but anyway. Yeah, it was an absolute process, and then the last one with the 6 of us was just a script, page of dialogue with just a line of dialogue, and every line was just a different emotion. And when we got to the BBC, we stood on a mark, and the camera just shot your eyes. That's all it was. It wasn't your whole face. It was just the eyes, and then you just did these 6 lines, and that was it. That's what we got.
And there was no sort of interaction with
No.
existing members of the cast.
No.
You're not doing
No.
chemistry reads, as they call them.
Nothing other than standing on the spot and looking into a camera and doing these 6 lines. I know.
Well,
I mean, I got the job, so I
yeah, I was going to
can't
say, you obviously did something right.
Something right.
So there we are. So the first time you meet Pat and Fraser?
First time I met them was on Debbie's last night. So when she did her last recording at Television Centre, I was invited along, and I sat in the gallery upstairs with the director and the editor, etc. And then there was a little party afterwards to say goodbye to Debbie and hello to me. And so that was the first time I met Pat and Fraser.
And, I mean, did you hit it off straight away, or...?
Pat was amazing. I mean, I can't stand Fraser, so... It was difficult for them, because obviously they were saying goodbye to Debs, who'd been with them for the 18 months or however long she was there. So that was a difficult one, and they didn't know what I was going to be like.
Yeah.
And they had no say in any of the casting. So, yeah, it was a lovely evening. It was a nice way of meeting them. And then, I think shortly after that, I started work.
So, I wrote the question down here. So, who were Fluff, Cough and Fart?
Oh. I mean, this is Sally Faulkner. Look, well, I can't remember who was Fluff. I think Pat was Fluff, because he'd start speaking, when we were rehearsing, and he'd fluff his lines and he'd be all over the place. So he was known as Fluff. Whenever Fraser forgot his lines, he would cough. And it was so obvious, it suddenly stumbling along with his lines, and then he'd go, no, sorry, I need some water, sorry. And we all knew that he'd just forgotten his lines. And the fart bit was attributed to me. And that absolutely was not true. And so I don't know where this came from, really. It's probably Fraser.
It sounds like Fraser, to be fair. As we were saying, the shows, was a big deal. So had you seen it before?
Oh yeah, of course, because everybody had seen Doctor Who, really, even though it didn't have this sort of fandom attached to it at that point.
It had an mainstream appeal.
It still was a very, an extremely popular show, and actually, when you think about it, the viewing figures were going down when, before Pat came. If Pat hadn't been so brilliant, we might not be sitting here. I mean, I know I'm biased, obviously, because I think he's the best doctor ever, but,
No argument from me.
he was so good. It was a stroke of genius to regenerate. That in itself was a brilliant idea. And then to get Pat in, who was just a sensational actor, I think was so brilliant, and because he was so good, it kept on, as it kept on going. And going. And going. And going.
And here we are 60 years later. I mean, the thing I always think about when I'm rewatching it, so I rewatched The Crotons yesterday.
You mad fool.
You know what? I will stand up and support the Crotons. I will fight any one of you.
Crotons!
You know what? Because I remember, and there is going to be a certain percentage of this audience who are similar age to me, who watched it on the BBC Two repeat season in 1981. Yeah, the 5 Faces of Doctor Who. I still have vivid memories of watching the Crotons. The dial thread will exhaust. Yeah.
So the croutons, as we used to call it.
Those little things in your suit. But yeah, that will have been the first time I'd have seen you and Pat and Fraser on telly as Doctor Who. I definitely remember reading the novelisations of other Doctors, but that was the one. That's the one. Yeah. So I've always got a soft spot.
Okay, I'll stop. Being rude about
there's so much creativity in all of these stories. Given that it looks like it was on occasion thrown together with a budget of tuppence and a wish. It absolutely hung on the writing and the cast to
Of course it did. That's all we'd got. I mean, if we didn't have a good story and good actors, and my goodness, we had some good actors. Always. I mean, throughout the history of Doctor Who, it has, the quality of the actors, and everybody wants to be in Doctor Who at some point or other in their career. But that's all we got. We had no technology. We didn't have anything else. We had no green screen, thank goodness.
Do you not like the sort of more modern effects work?
Oh no, I love it. I mean, I love the technology. It's just that, I mean, watching shooting, it's honestly, you can just see the Disney money, can't you? When you look at it, it's just incredible. And I love it, but that wasn't a thing back in the day. All we'd got was, is this going to be a good story, and how can we make it as good as we, make it as good as we can?
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. So, I mean, I was going to say in one word, but in a short sentence, I'm going to go through each of your stories, just brief, overriding memory or something along those lines. So we start at the Wheel in Space.
You want me to say it in a sentence?
Just something.
Okay, Wheel in Space, nervous.
Yeah, that's fair.
Feeling a little bit sorry for Tristan de Beer-Cole because he didn't cast me, so he was lumbered with all three of us actually. I mean, not being lumbered with Pat's not a thing, but so I was a bit nervous and also a little bit sad that there was no more directorial help. I think is a polite way of saying we didn't get any, or I didn't get any, and I felt I needed it as a young, a new character, Okay.
The Dominators.
Yes, costumes. I think Dominators. Those giant. I mean, I did feel sorry for people. Honestly,
there were some pretty groovy costumes during war.
Yeah, when you say groovy.
Hey, you managed to pull off a sparkly catsuit.
Oh, but that was a nice. What are you saying? That was a nice costume.
Yeah,
actually, that was the.
There were some really groovy ones.
My best costume of all because it was the most comfortable thing to wear.
Right.
So that was great. So Dominators, yeah, it's all right. Yeah. Was Ronald Allen in the Dominators?
That's right.
Yeah, I remember Ronnie Allen. Yeah. And who directed that? Maurice Barry.
Yeah.
Maurice Barry.
Yeah.
He was a bit of a. I don't know how to say this. I'm going to say it anyway. He was. Possibly it showed his, I don't know, insecurities, but he didn't really like me, and he didn't really speak to me. And so he would give notes to me via Patrick, or usually via Patrick. And it became very apparent very quickly that I wasn't going to get anywhere with him, however hard I tried. So, yes, that's a story that I don't know. I think I was the youngest and the most inexperienced, and I think there are a lot of, not just in acting, but I think in life, I think you know there are people that find that they not bully exactly. It's not exactly bullying, but the youngest and most inexperienced gets all the flack, basically. I don't think that's particular to acting.
Personal favourite for me, as I said to you earlier, the Mind Robber.
Ah, it's my favourite too. I always say it's my favourite, especially when I'm doing a panel with Fraser, because I always say it was my favourite because you weren't there for a week. I mean, it was thank goodness we were doing Mind Robber when he got chicken pox, because it was an easier story.
Yeah.
I remember Terence Dick sitting on the side of a set, rewriting when we knew Fraser couldn't come to work and been sent home, and then they got Hamish in, Hamish Wilson, and Pat and I were saying, oh, we've got a real actor now. But it was a brilliant thing to, you know, mess up his face, put it together wrong. So clever, so quick, so speedily done, because it had to be. So I love Mind Robber. In my head, the sets are utterly brilliant. In reality, when I rewatched it and thought, oh, that doesn't quite look as nice as I remembered it. You know, the forest of letters and things, I thought was just, at the time, I thought it was sensational. And then when I looked at it, back at it, it's like, yeah, it's not quite as good, but it's a brilliant story.
Next up, so it's basically the pilot for what came after you, the Invasion units.
What I think about immediately with the Invasion is the brilliant direction of the whole thing. And the shots, some of the shots that Dougie Camfield did were incredible. And the two characters, you know, don't ask me, I'm old. Say that again? Yes, but who was... Packer. But what were their names, real names? Kevin Stoney. Kevin said, I mean, they were like Morecambe and Wise. They were like a double act, and Packer spent his entire life getting everything wrong. It was just brilliant. Kevin Stoney was a fabulous actor, and I loved that story. I really loved it. But it wasn't until afterwards, and I think I was doing maybe a commentary for it years later, and so I was having to watch it, when I realised quite how good it was. You know, directorially, I thought it was brilliant.
On a sort of tangent, that's the first story you've got that had episodes missing, and then you're one of these people who has now been recreated in animation. So,
yeah.
I mean, so what was that like?
Seeing that?
Seeing a pen and ink version of yourself.
Yeah, I love that animation. I loved its simplicity. They managed to make Fraser look really handsome, which was, you know, quite a feat. And they gave me quite big bosoms, I mean, which was, again, quite unusual. But no, I love the simplicity of that, and I'm sad that they don't do more, but it was Cosgrove and Hall, wasn't it?
Cosgrove Hall did that.
And they were so expensive. I mean, they were the company of the time at that period of time, that they, you know, BBC kind of ran out of money for that. They didn't, but they, you know.
Yeah. So we're back to the Crotons.
Don't remember much about, except them falling over a lot, you know. They were the Quarks.
That's the Dominators.
Oh, sorry.
The Crotons are the ones from South Africa.
Oh, yes. I can't really remember much about the Croton. I should go home and do my homework and watch it. Put myself through torture.
Right.
Is it a good story?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And you've got some good stuff in it.
Is that the one where I...
You plug yourself into the education machine and
blow it. Is that where I blow it?
And
I know that.
And the Crotons think you're really, well, that you are really clever. And what have you?
Oh, I'll rewatch it.
It's only 4 episodes as well.
I'll rewatch it, and we'll come back next week, and I'll talk to you about it.
Seeds of Death.
Yeah. I remember, that's the one with the foam, isn't it?
Yes, and the Ice Warriors.
Oh, I loved an Ice Warrior. I was scared of Ice Warriors.
Okay.
I know that sounds a bit pathetic, because I'd sit in makeup next to, you know, the actors getting all their stuff on. But there was something very creepy about an Ice Warrior, with that sort of hissy voice, even though I knew they'd got a microphone under their costume, and they sat for hours having all this latex put on. Yeah, I wasn't fond of a Ice Warrior. Was that a good story?
Yes.
I better watch that one again as well.
Other people may disagree, but I will fight it. I don't think there's a bad story in the bunch.
Okay, that's interesting.
That said, we are now up to a slightly different, to the Space Pirates. This is the one that basically doesn't exist.
No. Oh, do you know, I can't remember what it was about. All I do remember is Gordon Gostelow doing a really weird accent, boiling an egg. That's all I can remember about Space Pirates.
Yeah. And then the epic that was the War Games.
Yeah. I always thought it was too long. I always thought, because it was 10 episodes, wasn't it? I always thought it should have been 8 episodes. However, I did rewatch that one at some point and thought, actually, I think it does stand up for 10 episodes.
Well, it's kind of 9 episodes and an epilogue.
Yeah. And obviously that was a sad one to do, because
Yes.
that was it. That was us leaving.
And have you always had sort of strong recollections of that time, that year that you spent doing Doctor Who, or?
Well, I've got to learn more about that, what I was doing in that period of time, from coming to Doctor Who conventions, because the fans know much more than I know about what I did. But it was a wonderful time. I mean, you know, there's no denying. It was a brilliant time. But I was a young actor. You know, we knew Pat was going. I think, well, we were both asked to stay on, and I think Fraser talked to Pat, and then I think agents got involved and were saying, it's time you left, it's time you left. I would have gone on with Pat and Fraser, but once I knew they were both going, there was no way. There was no way I was going to stay on, because we'd had such a brilliant time together. I didn't think I could. I just didn't think it would be right.
Yeah. Okay.
So it wasn't difficult. It was difficult to leave, but the decision to leave was not so hard when I knew that those two were going.
But but you're one of these rarities within Doctor Who, that you've been a companion. You've also come back and done other things. So we skip forward to the 70s, and they decide to do Doctor Who as a stage play.
Oh yes.
Doctor Who and the Daleks, 7 Keys to do that. So firstly, you finally get to be with the Daleks.
Yes.
You didn't do that on telly.
No.
And so somebody has the bright idea, let's...
Degree, it was so technical. I mean, the story was good, but it was so technical that actually to perform, it was really difficult.
Yeah.
Because it was way before its time, because we had big screens with big projections on, you know, big, huge sets, huge monsters that you know, people up ladders with. I mean, it was spectacular in that sense, but a complete technical nightmare. So I think Terence's story was quite a simple story, but the staging of it was anything but. And unfortunately, we were in the West End, but it was at the time when bombs were going off in letterboxes, etc., post boxes and things. So people stopped coming because you're not going to bring your children into central London. With that, people were very nervous. So it didn't do. We did the run, and they then thought that they might try and take it on the road, which would have been fine. I mean, it was, but they couldn't in the end because they realised that a lot of the provincial theatres, the touring theatres, that simply weren't big enough to house the sets. It just was impossible.
Was there ever a moment though of, yes, I finally get to do the Dalek?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I got in Daleks and did some fighting. It was brilliant. Yeah, that was brilliant fun. I got burnt because there was like a battery inside.
Right.
And I got burnt on my leg because it was one of those normal like acid batteries.
Like a car battery?
Yeah, like a car battery. So yeah, I got quite a lot of burns on my legs from that, but it was still fun. Yeah, it was great. And Trevor Martin was a really good doctor. Yeah. He was a really good doctor.
Do you think potentially a show like that suffers if it doesn't have the actual person from the TV show or what have you?
No, not at all, because you know, they're all actors. It doesn't suffer at all. No, you know, anyone could be a doctor. Just the way they play it. We're proving over the years, aren't we?
Oh, indeed.
That any good actor can be a doctor. It doesn't have to be, you know, it doesn't detract from the doctor itself. So,
where did you go after Doctor Who? What did the career look like?
Oh, I did some theatre, I think. I did a series called Freewheelers, which was quite a long-running series. I had some children. Then I sort of stopped, really.
Yeah, so acting has always struck me as being this sort of all-consuming thing. You've got to act, and then one day it's like you got to the point where actually I don't need to do this anymore. What am I going to do instead? And you became an agent.
Yes, that was a definite decision then. Earlier than that, it was purely deciding that I was going to stay at home with the kids. So that was, and I did the odd job, you know, throughout the years. I was married to an actor, so when he was away working, I had the kids, and then I'd get a job and go away and he'd look after the kids. So that's how that worked. But definitely, it was an episode of The Bill, actually, that finished me off. It was just, I just didn't enjoy myself. And I thought, I don't know why I'm hanging around for a job that I'm not really enjoying. So I decided I wasn't going to do it. And then I sat at home for a year going, this is interesting. This is why I should have stayed at school and got some sort of education behind me. Because I there was nothing else. And somebody said to me, "You'd be a good agent." And I said, "No, I wouldn't. That's like, it's like a grown-up job. It's like going into an office. I can't do that." Anyway, I did. So that, yeah, I did it for 15 years. No.
And so, famously, you discovered a certain young Matthew Smith.
Yes.
What happened there?
What, when I saw Matt?
Yeah. How did you find him?
Well, he came to do a production of a play called Master and Margarita at the National Youth Theatre. And as an agent, you don't just sit in an office all day. You have, part of the job is to go out and see productions, see clients in productions, and also go to drama schools and see who see their showcases, to see who's coming forward. And I was a great supporter of the National Youth Theatre. I really loved what it stood for, bringing people into London to do a production who probably wouldn't even in the future want to be an actor, or maybe not even get to London again. I just loved what they did, bringing this group of kids together. And Matt was one of them. He was at university at the time. I didn't know that then, and I just saw the play. And, what is it about somebody that you just can't take your eyes off them? You don't know what it is. It's a certain something that some actors have got and others haven't. And I just thought he was fabulous. So I went to the bar afterwards and said, I'm Wendy, I'm an agent. I don't know whether you want to be an actor or not. And he said, "Oh, I do." And I said, "Oh, well, here's my card. I'd be very interested in having a chat with you. Here's my card, and when you're ready, give me a ring." He went, "All right, yeah, I will." Anyway, phoned the next day. And so about a week later, he came into the office, and I remember saying to the girls in the office, "Got somebody coming in who's got the most extraordinary features that actually don't fit together, but he is mesmerising. He's absolutely mesmerising." And so he came in, and we were all like that. He's just gorgeous. It's something about him. Anyway, I said, "If you want to be represented by us, then that's great, and we can set the ball rolling." He said, "Yes, I do. I'm at university, but I finished my course." And I said, "Well, that's fine, and we'll get you to get some photos done, and we'll get a CV drawn up for you. So we'll, in the next couple of weeks." The following day, I had a phone call from Lisa Macon, who at that point was the casting director at the Royal Court, which for any actor to work at the Royal Court is amazing.
Yeah.
And she said, honestly, we are pulling our hair out. We're trying to cast this part of somebody who's a little bit quirky, can look about 17, can do a New York accent, and we've seen so many people, and the director just is not happy with anybody we've seen. And I said, "Yep, Matt Smith." And she said, "I don't know who that is." And I said, "Well, no, because we only took him on yesterday." So I said, I can't send you a CV, I can't send you a photo." And she said, "I trust you." She said, tell him to come to the Royal Court stage door, pick up a script, and then come back on Monday." So this was a Friday. "Come back on Monday and meet the director." So I said, "Right." So I phoned Matt and I said, "Right, first question, can you do a New York accent?" Because obviously I'd lied when I said yes he could, because I didn't know whether he could or not. And he said, "Yes, I can." And I went, "Oh, great. Then, can you go to the Royal Court, pick up a script, and go back on Monday to meet the director and the casting director?" And there was a pause, and then he said, "Bloody hell, that was quick." And the rest is history. I think they'd given him the job before he'd even left the building. I got a call from Lisa saying, "Oh, Wend, he is amazing, absolutely amazing." So, and then I had to write to his university because they said they wouldn't release him. So I wrote to and actually at the 50th anniversary, that debacle that we all went through, I saw Matt and his mum and dad were there and Uncle George, and his mum said to me, "We've still got the letter. We've still got the letter you wrote." So because I had to write a letter to the dean saying, "Please, will you release this young man? He has an amazing career ahead of him, and for a first job to work at the Royal Court is quite something." So it's only 6 weeks. It's 3 weeks rehearsal, 3 weeks playing. He'll come straight back to uni. He'll finish his course. Please, please, please. This will be an amazing start for this young man's career. Anyway, they did. They let him off, and Matt's mum's still got the letter that I wrote.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We're nearly out of time.
Oh.
But let's see. Oh, they're all so. I do want to make sure that somebody else at least gets a chance to. I've got a hand gone straight up over there. So, what's your question?
I absolutely loved you and Fraser doing the Tales of the TARDIS. It was just joyous. Did you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed watching it?
Yes, let's say yes. I mean, I was utterly terrified. I said to Russell, when it was first muted, I said, "Oh, do you know what? I haven't been in front of the camera for 40 years. I haven't had to learn lines. I honestly don't know." And he said, "Oh, for God's sake, woman." He said, "It's 6 minutes. Surely you can learn 6 minutes. It's like riding a bike," was what he said. Well, it's not. Trust me. But what a lovely nod to us oldies. I mean, classics.
Your memories back. Your characters got your memories.
Yes, yes. And it was just on the first day, I got terribly emotional. Fraser didn't know what was wrong with me, but I walked, because the night before Fraser and I went out to supper with Russell. We were at the restaurant before he arrived, and when he walked in, he just burst into tears and said, "I can't believe I'm seeing Zoe and Jamie together." I said, "You need to get a grip. This is not going to work." And anyway, he said, during supper, he said, "Do you want to see the TARDIS before you start work tomorrow?" And I said, No, I don't want to see it. I'd rather, let's leave it for tomorrow." And so did all the makeup and all the stuff, and then walked into the TARDIS, and I absolutely sobbed. And I surprised myself that I was so emotional about stepping back into the TARDIS. I mean, it's ludicrous when you think about it, but actually that's how I felt. So Russell cried, and then Russell didn't stop crying, and he was saying, "Do you want a hug?" I was going, "No, go away, leave me alone. And you're going to have to leave if you're going to keep crying, because we can't both keep crying. It's not going to work." He said, "No, it's fine. Yeah, I'll go. I've got lots of meetings." And I went, "Well, go to your meetings and just leave us to get on with this." But what I didn't know was he didn't leave, and he sat at the back of the studio in the dark. So I thought he had left. But it was just lovely, so different. The Bad Wolf machine, that machine kicking in, which was, because Russell had said, "Your car will pick you up." And I said, "It's all right, Russell. I've got my own car here." He said, No. The car will pick you up. And I said, "Honestly, I just drive myself. It's only from the hotel to the..." He said, "The car will pick you up." And I went, "Oh, right." I said, "What you have to remember is, I used to go to work on the bus. So this is all so big. It was so huge, that machine. And I imagine it's like that on the big soaps and other programs, but it was so so contrary to everything that we'd ever done, you know, back in the day. It was just lovely. It was really lovely.
And on that note,
Have I got to go now? Oh, that's a shame.
It is a shame.
Once I get going, you know,
Yeah.
there's no stopping.
It has been an absolute pleasure. Wendy, keep Padbury over. Thank you very much.